My name is Ethan. I'm 32 years old, and until last month I hadn't spoken to my father for almost 4 years. If someone had told me that I'd end up standing outside his wedding while security treated me like a criminal, I probably would have laughed. But that's exactly what happened. The strange part wasn't that he didn't want me there. The strange part was that he had absolutely no idea who was actually paying for the wedding. Let me explain. My parents divorced when I was 15. My mom worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table, while my dad disappeared into what he called his new life. He married money. At least that's what everyone in our town believed. Every Christmas, he'd post photos from expensive vacations, luxury hotels, sports cars, designer suits. Meanwhile, Mom and I were counting every dollar before buying groceries. For years, I hated him. Not because he left, but because he never looked back. Birthdays came and went without a phone call. He missed my high school graduation. He ignored my college acceptance letter. When I started my own small construction company, he didn't even know it existed. And honestly, I stopped caring. Or at least I thought I did. Life slowly got better. The company grew faster than I ever expected. We started with remodeling kitchens, then office buildings. Eventually, we were winning contracts worth millions of dollars. I wasn't rich enough to buy private islands or fly in private jets, but I was comfortable. More importantly, Mom never had to worry about money again. The funny thing is, success changes how people see you. Old classmates suddenly remembered your name. Distant relatives started calling. Even people who ignored you for years somehow found your phone number. But not my father. He never called. Until one Tuesday afternoon. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. When I picked up, there was a long silence. Then I heard a familiar voice. "Ethan?" For a second, I forgot how to breathe. It was him. He sounded older, slower. But I knew that voice immediately. "I heard your business is doing pretty well," he said. No hello, no apology. No, "How have you been?" Just business. I told him things were fine. Then he cleared his throat. "I'm getting married next Saturday." I didn't know how to respond. "Congratulations? Why are you telling me?" So I stayed quiet. "I figured you should know." Again, silence. Finally, I asked the obvious question. "So, are you inviting me?" Another pause. Longer this time. Then he laughed nervously. "It's a small wedding." That sentence told me everything. But he kept talking. "My fiancé's family has certain expectations." I could already feel where the conversation was heading. They're very successful people." "So?" "They're worried about appearances." I frowned. "What does that have to do with me?" He sighed. "Ethan, your truck, your work clothes, they don't really fit the atmosphere we're creating." For a moment, I honestly thought he was joking. I even smiled. Then I realized he wasn't laughing. "You don't want your own son at your wedding because I don't look rich enough?" "It's not like that." "Then explain it." "They just think it would be better if only immediate family attended." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I am immediate family." Another uncomfortable silence. Finally, he said the words that stayed in my head for days. "Some people just don't belong at certain events." Click. He hung up. I stared at my phone for almost 5 minutes. Not angry, not even shocked. Just disappointed. After all these years, he still cared more about impressing strangers than knowing his own son. I told myself I wouldn't think about it anymore. But 2 days later, something happened that changed everything. I received an email from the accounting department of my company. At first, it looked like another routine payment approval. Then I noticed the project name, Rosewood Grand Estate, the venue where my father's wedding was scheduled to take place. I opened the file, and my heart nearly stopped. That's when I realized my father had absolutely no idea who really owned the property where he planned to say, "I do." And suddenly, his decision to uninvite me didn't seem nearly as smart as he thought. The moment I saw the name Rosewood Grand Estate on the payment report, I froze. At first, I assumed it had to be a coincidence. There were probably dozens of venues with similar names. But when I opened the contract, there was my father's full name listed under the event reservation. Wedding date Saturday. Everything matched. I leaned back in my chair and laughed, not because it was funny, but because life sometimes has a strange sense of humor. About 2 years earlier, my company had become one of the investors in Rosewood Grand Estate. The previous owners were struggling financially, and my business partners asked if I wanted to buy a large share of the property. I agreed. Since then, I rarely visited the venue. A professional management company handled the day-to-day operations, and I preferred to stay out of the spotlight. Most clients had no idea who the owners were. Apparently, neither did my father. For a brief moment, an ugly thought crossed my mind. I could cancel his reservation. Legally, I probably could. After all, my name was on the ownership documents. But almost immediately, I pushed the thought away. Revenge wasn't worth becoming the kind of person he had always been. I closed the file and went back to work. Or at least I tried. His words kept replaying in my head. Some people just don't belong at certain events. Every time I remembered them, they hurt a little more. Not because I wanted to attend the wedding, because they reminded me that even after all these years, my father still measured people's worth by what they looked like. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. I spent the morning helping one of my construction crews inspect a new project across town. By noon, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I will be. You don't have to prove anything today. I know. You've already built a life he never believed you could." She always knew exactly what to say. Before hanging up, she added one more thing. "I'm proud of you." Those 4 words meant more than anything my father had ever said to me. After work, I drove toward the estate, not to interrupt the ceremony, not to embarrass anyone. I simply wanted to speak with the general manager about a renovation project we had planned for the following month. Since I was already nearby, it made sense to stop in. I parked my old pickup truck near the service entrance. The same truck my father thought looked too embarrassing. I smiled to myself. That truck had carried tools that built my entire business. I wouldn't trade it for any luxury car. As I walked toward the entrance, I noticed expensive cars lined up everywhere. Luxury SUVs, sports cars, limousines. Guests wearing designer suits and elegant dresses filled the courtyard. It looked like something out of a magazine. I was almost at the side entrance when 2 security guards stepped in front of me. "Sir, this event is private." "I know," I replied politely. "I'm here to meet the venue manager." One guard glanced at my jeans and work boots. "The manager is busy." "I'll wait." Before either of us could say another word, I heard a voice I hadn't expected. "Ethan?" I turned around. It was my father, standing beside his fiancée. He looked shocked. For a second, I thought maybe he was happy to see me. I was wrong. His expression quickly changed to frustration. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I came to speak with the venue manager." He looked around nervously as several guests began watching. "This isn't the time." "I know. You shouldn't have come. I wasn't here for your wedding." His fiancée folded her arms. "So this is your son?" Dad forced an awkward smile. "Yes." She looked me up and down before whispering loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I thought you said he understood the situation." My father sighed. "He usually does." Then he looked directly at the security guards. "I'm sorry, gentlemen. He isn't invited. If he refuses to leave, please escort him off the property." For a moment, everything went silent. The guards stepped closer. Several guests turned to watch. I could feel dozens of eyes on me. One of the guards spoke respectfully. "Sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave." I nodded calmly. "I understand." I reached into my pocket. Not for an argument, not for revenge, just for my phone. There was only one person I needed to call, the general manager. As the phone rang, I looked at my father one last time. He seemed relieved, as if he had finally gotten rid of the embarrassment standing in front of him. He had no idea that in less than 5 minutes, everyone at the wedding would learn the truth, and nothing about this day would ever be the same. The phone rang only once before someone answered. "Good afternoon, Mr. Carter," the general manager said cheerfully. "Is everything all right?" I smiled. "I think we have a small misunderstanding at the front entrance." "I'll be right there." Less than 2 minutes later, the large wooden doors opened. Out walked Michael, the general manager of Rosewood Grand Estate. The moment he saw me, his expression changed. He walked straight past the security guards and held out his hand. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. We weren't expecting you today." The 2 security guards looked completely confused. "So, you know him?" one of them asked. Michael looked surprised. Of course I know him. Then he smiled. He's one of the owners of this estate. Silence. Absolute silence. I watched the color drain from my father's face. His fiancée blinked several times as if she hadn't heard correctly. I'm sorry, one of the guards said nervously. We were told he wasn't invited. Michael looked toward my father. You asked security to remove one of the owners? No one answered. Guests nearby began whispering. I could hear bits and pieces. Did he just say owner? I thought he was a construction worker. Is this really his place? My father finally found his voice. Ethan, you own this venue? I own part of it, I replied calmly. His fiancée stared at him. You never told me that. He looked completely lost. I didn't know. Michael turned to me. Would you like us to continue with the event, or would you prefer to cancel today's reservation? The courtyard became so quiet that I could hear birds in the nearby trees. Every guest was waiting for my answer. This was the moment everyone expected revenge. They thought I'd smile. Cancel the wedding and humiliate my father the same way he had humiliated me for just a second. I imagined doing exactly that. Then I remembered my mother's words. You've already built a life he never believed you could. She was right. I'd already won. I didn't need revenge to prove it. I looked at Michael and smiled. The wedding stays. A wave of relief spread across the crowd. But, I continued, looking directly at my father, I do want to say one thing. Everyone turned toward me. When I was a kid, I thought being successful meant owning nice things. I spent years trying to prove myself. I thought maybe, if I worked hard enough, you'd finally be proud of me. I shook my head. But today I realized something. The problem was never my clothes. It was never my truck. It was never my job. The problem was that you judged people by appearances. And today, appearances fooled you. No one said a word. My father lowered his head. For the first time in my life, he looked ashamed. A few seconds later, he slowly walked toward me. His eyes were filled with tears. I'm sorry, he whispered. I've made so many mistakes. I kept chasing people who cared about money and ignored the one person who actually earned my respect. I didn't answer immediately. Some apologies erase years of pain. Others simply acknowledge them. This was the second kind. I appreciate you saying that, I replied quietly. But trust isn't rebuilt with one sentence. He nodded. I know. His fiancée stepped forward. She looked embarrassed. I owe you an apology too, she said. I judged you without knowing anything about you. I smiled politely. I hope next time you judge someone by their character instead of their clothes. She nodded. I will. Michael looked at me again. Would you still like the private family lounge prepared? I glanced at my father. He looked hopeful. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I said, No, I have somewhere else to be. I shook Michael's hand, wished the couple a peaceful wedding, and turned toward my old pickup truck. As I climbed inside, I caught one last glimpse of the guests. No one was looking at my truck anymore. No one was whispering about my work boots. They weren't judging what I drove. They were thinking about what had just happened. As I pulled away, my phone rang. It was my mom. Everything okay? She asked. I smiled. Yeah. How did it go? I looked in the rearview mirror one last time before the estate disappeared behind the trees. I finally realized something. What's that? You don't have to embarrass people to prove your worth. The right people will recognize it eventually. She laughed softly. I've been trying to teach you that for years. I know. When I got home that evening, I took one last look at the old pickup truck sitting in my driveway. It was scratched, covered in dust, far from perfect. But every dent told the story of the life I had built with my own hands. And unlike expensive suits, fancy cars, or beautiful wedding venues, no one could ever take that away from me. If there's one lesson I learned, it's this. People who judge your value by your appearance will always underestimate you. Let them. Your actions will tell your story far louder than your clothes ever could.